work, and we wanted to do, there were both big reasons why we wanted to do this picture, was to work with each other too.
The RMS Titanic vanished beneath the Atlantic waves over a century ago, yet James Cameron's 1997 cinematic masterpiece continues to mesmerize audiences worldwide. Beyond the sweeping love story between Jack and Rose lies an incredible collection of production secrets and surprising revelations. From a budget that nearly destroyed the entire project to a bizarre poisoning incident that sounds too strange to believe, the making of Titanic contains mysteries as deep as the ocean itself. Join us as we explore 20 weird facts about the film that revolutionized cinema and conquered the box office like no movie before it.
Really well.
Really?
Well enough for when I left, I was being...
Number 1. Matthew McConaughey nearly played Jack. When you think of Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio's face immediately comes to mind. His youthful charisma and electric chemistry with Kate Winslet became fundamental to the movie's massive success. But here's something most people don't know. Matthew McConaughey was seriously considered for the iconic role and even auditioned for it. In the mid-1990s, McConaughey was an emerging talent, gaining recognition for his magnetic performances in films like A Time to Kill. His audition for Jack impressed the casting directors tremendously. Kate Winslet later revealed in interviews that she actually auditioned alongside McConaughey and initially favored him for the part. She felt they had genuine chemistry and was excited about the possibility of him becoming her on-screen lover. Despite McConaughey's strong audition and Kate's enthusiastic support, director James Cameron had a very specific vision for Jack Dawson. He needed someone who could authentically portray a penniless artist with a deeply romantic soul. Cameron ultimately chose Leonardo DiCaprio, and that decision changed everything. The chemistry between Leonardo and Kate was absolutely electric, and their on-screen connection transformed Titanic into one of cinema's greatest love stories. It's nearly impossible to imagine anyone else delivering Jack's memorable lines. McConaughey's version of Jack might have resulted in an entirely different film.
Bringing in the international press and having it take place here, I think really resonated with them as well.
Number 2. Building a massive Titanic replica. James Cameron faced an enormous challenge. How do you authentically recreate the world's most famous maritime disaster without access to the original vessel resting 2 miles beneath the Atlantic Ocean? His solution was both ambitious and expensive. Build an incredibly detailed, near full-size replica of the legendary ship. The massive reproduction was constructed at Fox Baja Studios in Mexico, measuring approximately 775 feet long, nearly matching the original Titanic's 882-foot length. This wasn't some small-scale model or primarily computer-generated creation. This was a real physical structure that captured the ship's grandeur in extraordinary detail. The replica featured multiple decks, lavishly decorated interiors, and functional elements like the iconic grand staircase. Cameron's obsession with authenticity influenced every single aspect of construction. The exterior had the same 4 towering smokestacks, intricate railings, and distinctive profile that made the original Titanic instantly recognizable around the world. Interior spaces were painstakingly recreated using historical blueprints, period photographs, and survivor testimonies. The first-class dining room, the palm court, and passenger cabins were all constructed to mirror their exact 1912 counterparts. The engineering challenges were immense. The replica had to be visually accurate while also being structurally sound enough to support elaborate film equipment, camera rigs, and large crews. This construction was significant because it allowed actors to genuinely inhabit the spaces their characters would have occupied, lending authentic emotional weight to their performances. Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio could walk the same corridors, climb the same staircases, and experience the same spatial relationships that actual Titanic passengers would have known. Number 3. How Kate Winslet broke the ice. One of cinema's most famously intimate scenes is the drawing sequence in Titanic. For 21-year-old Kate, appearing completely nude in front of a co-star she had literally just met could have been excruciatingly awkward. Rather than letting that discomfort dominate the situation, Kate took matters into her own hands. She broke the ice by flashing Leonardo when they first met. Kate's bold decision reveals the tremendous courage required of actors in vulnerable situations. The sketching scene wasn't filmed weeks later after the actors had developed a comfortable rapport. It was actually one of the very first scenes to be shot. Her playful gesture helped dismantle any potential tension and likely contributed to the natural ease and genuine intimacy that audiences continue to praise decades later. This moment hints at the kind of friendship Kate and Leonardo would develop. They became extraordinarily close during filming, and their bond has lasted for decades. The comfort and deep trust they established helped make their on-screen romance one of the most convincing and beloved in film history.
I mean, I love looking absolutely awful on camera, and the last couple of days I've been shooting on Titanic, and...
Number 4. Filming on the real research vessel. When James Cameron set out to create the most authentic Titanic film imaginable, he decided to blur the lines between fiction and reality in ways few Hollywood productions have ever attempted. Rather than constructing elaborate studio sets to represent the modern-day research vessel scenes, Cameron made a remarkable choice. He filmed aboard the actual Akademik Mstislav Keldysh, which had been used for genuine Titanic expeditions. This legendary Russian research vessel played a crucial role in deep-sea exploration since its launch in 1980. It was named after Soviet mathematician and space program pioneer Mstislav Keldysh, and was specifically designed for challenging ocean research missions. By filming aboard the real Keldysh, Cameron achieved a level of authenticity impossible to replicate on any studio soundstage. This decision also allowed Cameron to seamlessly integrate actual footage from real Titanic expeditions with his fictional narrative. The opening sequences showing the genuine Titanic wreck on the ocean floor were filmed during research dives, with Cameron personally going down to the wreck site multiple times. This authentic footage, combined with the setting of the actual Keldysh, created a documentary-like quality that elevated the entire film's credibility. Number 5. The 5-month sinking scene. One of the most bone-chilling sequences in Titanic shows the ship's catastrophic final moments when it violently splits in two and begins its terrifying plunge toward the ocean floor. This intensely dramatic scene required 5 full months to complete. For Cameron, it was either absolutely perfect, or it wasn't done at all. There was no middle ground. The production team built a massive ship replica on a specially engineered platform in Baja, Mexico. This wasn't a small miniature or purely a computer-generated trick. Filmmakers constructed a near full-scale section of the Titanic and mounted it on a gigantic hydraulic platform that could tilt up to 90 degrees. This remarkable structure allowed the replica to authentically mimic the ship's gradual, horrifying rise into the air before it snapped apart. The sophisticated design allowed actors and stunt performers to genuinely scramble and fall as the ship's angle became increasingly dangerous, creating intensely realistic scenes of panic and terror. The physical authenticity of this approach gave the sequence an emotional power that pure special effects could never achieve. Number 6. The heartbreaking true story behind the elderly couple. One of the most haunting images in the entire film shows an elderly couple lying peacefully together in bed as the ship sinks around them, water rushing through their first-class cabin while the band plays Nearer My God to Thee. This poignant scene conveyed profound emotions, love, acceptance, and dignity in just a few powerful seconds. As emotionally devastating as this scene was for audiences, it wasn't born from imagination or screenwriting creativity. The real-life story of Isidore and Ida Strauss inspired it. They were both passengers aboard the actual Titanic, and their devotion to each other in their final moments has moved people to tears for over a century. Isidore was a 67-year-old prominent German-American businessman and co-owner of Macy's department store. Ida was 63 and deeply devoted to her husband. When disaster struck on that fateful night of April 14, 1912, they faced an impossible choice. As women and children were being loaded into lifeboats, Ida was offered a seat to safety. However, she steadfastly refused to leave her husband's side, reportedly saying she would not be separated from him after so many years of marriage. This extraordinary act of love inspired Cameron to include their story in the film. Although the movie depicts them dying peacefully in bed, the reality was likely different. Witnesses reported seeing the couple on deck, with Ida stepping out of a lifeboat to remain with Isidore. The exact circumstances of their final moments remain uncertain, but their love was undeniably real. They chose to face certain death together rather than apart. Number 7. Billy Zane's unscripted table flip. Like all great films, countless subtle elements contribute to Titanic's emotional intensity and remarkable realism. One particularly striking moment occurs during a breakfast scene between Cal Hockley, played by Billy Zane, Rose, and her mother Ruth. In a sudden burst of violent rage, Cal flips the breakfast table, startling both women and shocking audiences. Many viewers have no idea that this dramatic gesture wasn't in the original script. It was entirely improvised by Billy Zane. His portrayal of Cal, the arrogant and controlling fiancé, is a masterclass in creating a memorable villain. Instead of relying solely on scripted dialogue to express Cal's anger and deep frustration, Zane channeled that fury into a physical, explosive outburst. The shock visible on Kate Winslet's face wasn't acting. It was completely genuine. Neither she nor Frances Fisher, who played Ruth, had any idea he was going to flip that table. Their authentic, startled reactions helped elevate the scene's tension dramatically and made Cal's volatile nature feel disturbingly real. Number 8. Leonardo's fans discovered the secret location. James Cameron thought he had outsmarted the Hollywood rumor mill entirely. To keep his ambitious Titanic project under wraps and prevent other studios from rushing a competing production into theaters, he gave the film a fake working title. Nobody outside the core crew was supposed to know what he was actually shooting. Yet despite these elaborate security measures, one force proved absolutely impossible to contain: Leonardo DiCaprio's devoted fans. They somehow figured out the exact location where he was filming. How they accomplished this remains somewhat mysterious even today. The Daily Spectacle at Fox Baja Studios in Mexico became extraordinary proof of dedicated fandom in an era when the internet didn't exist. Remember, this was 1996. Any love Leonardo received from fans was purely because of his acting talent and charisma. His supporters relied solely on word-of-mouth entertainment magazines and sheer determination to locate their star. What makes this fan congregation particularly fascinating is its timing. Leonardo was still an emerging heartthrob, having recently broken out in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. He hadn't yet reached the stratospheric fame that Titanic would bring him. Yet his fanbase already demonstrated the kind of devotion typically reserved for established superstars. Number 9. Computer-generated breath in freezing scenes. James Cameron's Titanic is widely celebrated for its groundbreaking visual effects and obsessive attention to minute details. One particularly interesting fact about the film's production involves the decision to use computer-generated imagery to simulate the cold breath fog of characters in the freezing Atlantic waters. The visible vapor escaping from characters' lips during the heartbreaking sinking scenes, especially when Jack and Rose cling desperately to a floating door in the icy ocean, was entirely computer-generated. This small yet crucial detail exemplifies why James Cameron is considered one of the greatest filmmakers of his generation. At first glance, capturing real breath fog seems simple. Just film in genuinely cold conditions. After all, humans naturally exhale visible vapor when breathing in freezing temperatures. However, achieving consistent and controllable breath fog on camera is far more complicated than it appears. Variations in air temperature, lighting conditions, camera angles, and the unpredictability of actors' breathing patterns make it extremely difficult to capture visible exhalation that appears both natural and cinematic. The actors weren't actually floating in the freezing North Atlantic. They were in large water tanks on sound stages where temperatures weren't cold enough to produce authentic foggy breath. To solve this technical problem, the visual effects team used sophisticated computer graphics to create visible breath digitally during post-production. Each breath was carefully tracked and animated to match the actor's mouth movements and emotional state. The result was so seamless that virtually no viewers realized the breath was artificial. Number 10. Cameron's unprecedented double victory. For 12 years, Titanic stood as a seemingly untouchable record breaker in cinema history. The film earned over $2.2 billion worldwide and established a standard that appeared impossible to surpass. Yet in 2010, James Cameron accomplished what no other filmmaker had ever done. He surpassed his own record with Avatar, claiming both the number 1 and number 2 spots on the all-time box office charts simultaneously. This was no small achievement. This resulted directly from Cameron's ingenuity as a director with an extraordinary eye for perfectionism. The 13-year gap between Titanic and Avatar wasn't accidental or due to creative drought. Cameron deliberately spent over a decade developing revolutionary 3D camera systems, advanced motion capture technology, and digital world-building techniques specifically designed for Avatar. While other directors might have rushed to capitalize on their success, Cameron patiently waited until technology could fully match his ambitious vision. Number 11. The disturbing PCP poisoning mystery. The incident occurred during night filming in Nova Scotia, the location used to recreate crucial ocean scenes. The cast and crew were served lobster chowder from the on-site catering team. Soon after eating, people began feeling extremely strange. Within minutes, symptoms escalated alarmingly. Crew members reported severe disorientation, confusion, paranoia, and vivid visual hallucinations. Some laughed uncontrollably while others cried or ran, panicking through the set. Over 80 individuals were hospitalized, including director James Cameron himself. Medical tests revealed the chowder had been deliberately laced with phencyclidine, PCP, a powerful hallucinogenic drug also known as angel dust. The effects were so extreme that Cameron immediately suspected foul play. According to reports, he even stabbed himself with a pen to induce vomiting. Despite thorough police investigations, the perpetrator was never identified. No individual was ever arrested or held responsible for this dangerous crime. The PCP poisoning delayed production but did not derail the film. James Cameron refused to allow this incident to distract from his vision of creating a masterpiece. Number 12. Remarkably young lead actors. When James Cameron cast Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet as the leads in Titanic, he was taking a significant gamble on two actors barely out of their teenage years. Leonardo was just 21 years old, and Kate was only 20 when filming began in 1995. This made them among the youngest performers ever to carry a production of such enormous scale and budget. This casting decision proved to be one of the best choices in cinema history. Their ages perfectly matched the innocence and passionate intensity of Jack and Rose, two young souls on a doomed ship from vastly different worlds, finding transcendent love against impossible odds. The authentic vulnerability and raw emotion in their performances might have been difficult for older, more experienced actors to capture convincingly. Number 13. On-set breath mints were essential. According to various reports from the set, Kate Winslet frequently had to deal with Leonardo's bad breath during their many intimate scenes. Known for his playful and sometimes mischievous nature, Leonardo enjoyed snacking on foods like garlic and tuna between takes. Definitely not the ideal food choices when a romantic kiss scene was scheduled to happen minutes later. Kate didn't tolerate his mischief silently and called him out like any professional would. She mentioned in interviews that Leonardo's breath was occasionally quite difficult to ignore during filming. To combat this issue, the crew kept breath mints and Tic Tacs readily available to ensure both actors were always prepared for romantic moments. For all the slow-motion camera movements, sweeping orchestral scores, and perfectly lit shots, two actors still spent long hours in extremely close quarters, often repeating the same intimate scene dozens of times. Number 14. Cameron drew the famous sketch. The hand gracefully guiding charcoal across paper in the famous "Draw Me Like One of Your French Girls" scene doesn't actually belong to Leonardo DiCaprio. It belongs to director James Cameron himself. Before conquering Hollywood, Cameron had worked various blue-collar jobs while developing his artistic talents, including drawing and painting. Rather than relying on Leonardo's non-existent drawing skills, Cameron personally stepped in to create the artwork, demonstrating his hands-on approach to every aspect of filmmaking. Number 15. Watercoloring techniques. Instead of relying exclusively on large-scale water tanks or genuinely deep pools, filmmakers used sophisticated lighting effects and colored water to create the convincing illusion of a deep, cold ocean. Using specialized dyes and precisely controlled lighting, they altered the water's color and appearance to make it seem far deeper than it actually was. Cooler tones like deep blues, greens, and even purples were strategically used to replicate the murky darkness of the North Atlantic Ocean. Number 16. Real-time syncing duration. The syncing scenes in the film were meticulously set to run for exactly 2 hours and 40 minutes, precisely matching the time it took the original RMS Titanic to sink into the North Atlantic. As audiences watched Jack and Rose's romance unfold, they unconsciously experienced the same inexorable passage of time that actual passengers and crew endured during those final terrifying hours. Number 17. The controversial jar rule. Cameron allegedly encouraged his submersible team to urinate in jars rather than break from deep-sea missions to use the bathroom. The dives were conducted in Russian submersibles that descended over 12,000 feet to reach the Titanic's final resting place. Missions that were extremely costly, physically demanding, and intensely time-sensitive. Number 18. The film cost more than the real ship. In a stunning irony, producing Titanic, the movie cost more than building the actual RMS Titanic. While the real ship's construction cost approximately $7.5 million in 1912 dollars, roughly $180 million adjusted for inflation, the film's budget skyrocketed to $200 million. This massive financial gamble paid off spectacularly when Titanic became the first film ever to cross the $1 billion mark at the global box office. Number 19. The improvised iconic line. Jack Dawson's legendary shout, "I'm the king of the world," wasn't originally in the script. According to Cameron, the scene wasn't working during filming. Frustrated, he asked Leonardo to simply say anything that might capture the raw emotion of the moment. The result was that unforgettable line that Cameron was initially unsure about but ultimately kept. Number 20. Cameron's Oscar speech echo. In a perfect full-circle moment, when James Cameron won Best Director at the 1998 Academy Awards, he famously echoed Jack's improvised line by triumphantly declaring, "I'm the king of the world," from the Oscar stage. This moment became iconic in its own right, cementing the line's place in popular culture forever. James Cameron's Titanic wasn't just a movie. It was a monumental achievement in filmmaking that pushed the boundaries of what cinema could accomplish. From nearly full-scale ship replicas to groundbreaking visual effects. From young actors who became global superstars to mysterious on-set incidents that remain unsolved, every aspect of this production was extraordinary. The film's legacy extends far beyond its record-breaking box office numbers and 11 Academy Awards. It changed Hollywood's approach to epic filmmaking, proved that audiences craved grand romantic stories told with technical brilliance, and created a cultural phenomenon that continues to resonate decades later. Behind every frame of this masterpiece lies incredible dedication, creative problem-solving, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. These 20 facts reveal that creating Titanic was its own epic journey, one nearly as dramatic and fascinating as the story told on screen. The film that seemed destined to sink instead sailed into history as one of cinema's greatest triumphs.